Today on Rappler, Cavite Governor John Vic Remulla calls Senator Trillanes a destroyer and says Vice President Binay shouldn't bother facing him in a debate. President Aquino fails to bring up China's recent acts of aggression in a chat with President Xi Jinping in Myanmar. And after a 10-year journey in space, an unmanned probe is set to make history when it lands on a comet. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. We're coming to you from Iloilo, which has preserved its rich colonial past through its ancestral homes and heritage churches. This is Miagao Church, recognized by UNESCO for a Baroque-style architecture which is woven in Filipino influences. Welcome to Rappler's Wrap for the Day, a list of the most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. One corruption charge after another. What's next for Vice President Jejomar Binay? His spokesperson, Cavite Governor John Vic Remulla, says the Vice President will focus on getting his job done instead of getting caught in verbal battles.
Cooler heads intervened. He said, nagpakalalaki siya eh. Sabi niya, sige, tuloy na natin to. But then the greater sense of responsibility for the country took over. And he heeded the inner voices in his head and said, it's better to go to work rather than to do this thing.
Remulla hits Binay's critic, Senator Antonio Trillanes, calling him, in his words, a destroyer.
He has destroyed Makati, he has destroyed the institution of the military. He's been destroying everything to his life. But in the 7 years as senator, what has he got to show? Nothing but destruction, the path of destruction that goes on. He's the Yolanda of senators. There's a path of destruction wherever he goes.
On Tuesday, President Benigno Aquino also hit Binay's critics in the Senate, telling them to stop making allegations in dribs and drabs. Despite a promise to bring up recent acts of aggression with China at this year's ASEAN summit hosted by Myanmar, Philippine President Benigno Aquino seemed to look for common ground in his chat with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Communications Secretary Sunny Coloma says Aquino and Chinese President Xi had a warm conversation about, quote, pursuing the peaceful path in the maritime dispute between the two countries. But Coloma says the case the Philippines filed against China stays. Victims of human rights violations under the Marcos regime are a step closer to receiving reparation from the government. The Human Rights Victims Claims Board will distribute to 50,000 claimants 10 billion pesos or $222.5 million fund transferred to the Philippine government from a Swiss account which holds the ill-gotten wealth of the late President Ferdinand Marcos. After a 10-year journey in space, an unmanned probe will make history as it lands on a speeding comet's rocky surface. The unmanned science lab Philae detached from its mothership Rosetta and descended to Comet 67P 510 million kilometers from Earth. Tourism officer Ben Jimenez says Iloilo attracts 10% foreign visitors and 90% local tourists. What will they see here? A place rich in heritage and history. Jimenez says Iloilo taps into its rich history to brand itself an old heritage city.
History is an important factor that would make people appreciate the place. Without history as an anchor, it's very difficult to appreciate a place.
For the full stories, click on the links on your screen. And for those of you watching on mobile, the links can be found on the titles on the article. You can also click on the tabs below to go to a story in the video. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. The story that's gotten the most number of votes in the last 24 hours is this one. Aquino signs law giving health insurance to all seniors. A whopping 90% happy that green brought out the mood of the day today. Most people are happy. Well, that is Rappler's Wrap for today, Wednesday, November 12, 2014. Visit Rappler.com for the latest news here and around the world. Check out our other shows, Tech Wrap and Talk Thursday. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are coming to you from Iloilo. Remember, use #SharePH, #ShareIloilo. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.